What is up, folks? Welcome to day 4 of the Foundations of Self-Talk course. Mindset Coach Trev here. Absolutely juiced to see you join. Now, over these last few days, first 3 days of the course, we've begun laying the foundation of what tournament-winning self-talk really looks like and sounds like. We've looked at the absolute basics, just straight up what is self-talk. We started to see a few examples to bring this to life from professionals. And then yesterday, most recently, we started building that bridge, identifying that connection between our self-talk, our physical body, and ultimately our game, our performance out on the course. Now today, day 4 here, before we get too far into anything else, I want us to pause and get super familiar with the data points within the InnerLoop training app. People are crazy about data these days. However, the point people miss is that if we don't really understand the data, it isn't really doing us that much good. How helpful can it be if I don't really even know what it means? So today, quickly, briefly, we're going to blow through this. We're going to touch base on each of the main metrics that you'll see every time you analyze a round, so you are super familiar and ready to use those data points as a weapon. The first data point we're going to take a look at is the first thing you're going to see whenever you open up an analyzed recording. And that's going to be the round summary. Think of this as like the 30,000 foot view. This is the big picture overall throughout those 3, 4, 5 hours. What went down out there? What are the main tenets you should pay attention to? This big picture is important because it helps us stay grounded. It's way too easy to get lost in the sauce, lost in those minute details sometimes. We get so wrapped up, so consumed by them, they actually end up not being very helpful. So the big picture, this round summary, it helps us zoom out, see that 30,000 foot view, and just keep everything in perspective. I suggest after analyzing a round, golfers take a look at this first. Read through that big picture, get the summary, get the main ideas, and that'll create a little bit of framing or structure for as you go into the more acute and particular details. Just below the round summary, you'll see your percentage splits of positive, negative, instructional, and neutral self-talk. Now, in general here, positive is usually statements that are empowering, uplifting, positive. They got that sort of vibe to them. Negative comments are quite frankly just the opposite of that. Those that are self-critical, those that are hateful, those that are hurtful, those that show frustration, irritation, these sort of things. That's what the app picks up as negative. Instructional is seen as cues, as directions, when you give yourself the steps, when you tell yourself what to do. All right, take a deep breath, stay focused, locked in, smooth and steady. What great instructional self-talk. And neutral, the section that probably you'll see the biggest chunk of, is all that other conversation that happens out on the golf course. Maybe that's casual chatting with your playing partners. Maybe that's talking to your caddy about something completely irrelevant. That's where the rest of the conversation falls. Now, it's massively important that you understand there's no one size fits all when it comes to these ratios, when it comes to these percentages. Sure, some people might say, oh, eliminate the negativity altogether. You don't want any negativity. You want all the positivity. I don't know if I quite buy that. For some of us, a little negativity is actually helpful. For some of us, maybe a little bit more of it is helpful, right? There's no one size fits all. Your job, your responsibility is as you play, look at those numbers, understand them, and start to see the patterns, start to see the trends. This way, you'll know when I really take a step back, what is best for me? And maybe do certain situations or certain courses or certain moments actually demand a little something different. This is going to give you a lot of freedom, again, to use your self-talk in a variety of ways, not just uplifting, rah-rah, positivity type stuff. The next data point you'll see just below this is the visual heat map. Now, this is breaking down the trends, the changes, and the momentum that arise and disappear throughout your round. Along the x-axis, you see time, right? This is understanding how far into that round we are. And on the y-axis here, you'll see percentages. These are breaking down how much of that positive, negative, instructional or neutral self-talk was happening in any particular moment. This graph is incredibly helpful in helping us understand that a lot happens and a lot changes over an entire round, even over an entire training session sometimes. We have bouts of incredible positivity. We have moments of difficulty and negativity. And sometimes we're just cool, calm, collected somewhere in the middle. Again, the idea here is to start seeing patterns, seeing trends. Do you notice, for example, that after the turn, after about halfway through that round, you always get more negative? Or can you tell that after certain situations, certain results, you get much more positive and it stays that way? If we start to understand those patterns and see those trends, then we can use that to your advantage, helping you stay resilient, stay sharp, and stay locked in when you need it the most. Next section is probably one of my personal favorites. And when I first created InnerLoop, this was the most eye-opening data point. What words, what phrases am I saying most often? We've broken this down into 3 categories so that, again, you can use this to your advantage in whatever way that looks. You'll see your 2 or 3 most common negative, positive, and instructional statements, and you'll see just next to those how many times you actually say them. For some golfers, this can be remarkably enlightening to understand, my goodness, I never knew I said that same negative statement 12 times during a round. Or maybe we'll see that, geez, this certain instructional cue today, I said a lot and that was actually really helpful. I felt that translate to my game. Again, it's taking us to a deeper level of what are the actual words, what are the actual phrases you're saying to yourself. Again, coming back to theory here of sports psychology, the more aware you are of those things, the more freedom you have to change them, the more freedom you have to be intentional. And now your self-talk is not just this reactive process that happens, but it's actually proactive. It's creating the energy, it's creating the vibe. And what a great way to play golf. The last metric we're going to take a look at here is, I think, a really, really special one, and that's your bounce back time. This is helping us understand how long does it take you to bounce back, to recover from adversity, from negativity. Quite straightforward, the app measures this metric by calculating or capturing a negative statement and then calculating how much time occurs in between that negative statement and the next positive or instructional one. Again, positivity is not always the answer. Sometimes just telling ourselves, take a deep breath, let's get back on track, one step in front of the next, is actually far more helpful than lying to ourselves and saying, come on, smile, you love this game, when we don't really believe it. The longer your bounce back time is, the better sense it gives us that maybe the processing, the emotional regulation, managing, right, the feelings of the moment needs a little attention. Now, regardless of what data point we're talking about here, out of this entire video, here's what I really want you to remember and keep in mind. These numbers, these data points, they're not a report card. This isn't a grade. This isn't some big assessment that your identity and judgment is based off of. No. These numbers, these data points, they're a mirror. They're a reflection. They let us understand what's happening, what's going on. And again, as all the research shows us, the more aware of these things we become, well, now you actually know what levers to pull. You know what little pieces to push and where to give a little nudge and where to shake things up to actually get a great outcome. It's remarkably important to remember the best version of your mental game will more than likely not look the same compared to anybody else. Doesn't matter if it's your best friend you play with all the time, your coach, whoever it is, the pros, everybody's is going to look a little different. Everybody's numbers, everybody's data is going to be varied because we're all different human beings. That is a great thing. And our journey, our process is understanding for you, what does that specifically look like so that you can actually have a mental game that works for yourself, not one that you pulled from Instagram, not one that you got off of TikTok or heard somebody else talk about. Now, we're just about wrapping up week number 1. We got one more day in the tank, and I'll see you tomorrow for that one. Before we get there, because we're going to have a little bit more of a interesting challenge tomorrow, for today, take it easy. I just want you to go out there and use the app once again. Get out on the range, get to the practice green, go chip a little bit, whatever it may be, and get 9 or 18 in if you have that opportunity. But go use the app, record, Talk yourself through the situations. Be vocal. Who cares? The more information we have, the better. And then analyze it and look at these data points we've talked about today. See what your bounce back time's like. See what certain words and phrases you're seeing most often. See what that ratio of positive to negative to neutral looks like for you. Start to understand your game from a completely new level. And then I will see you again tomorrow. We're going to wrap up week 1 with some great energy. And man, we're just going to keep rocking and rolling. So thank you again for being here. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.